Supreme Commander Do Young stood at the massive window of his command ship, watching Earth burn. The blue planet looked different now, with red spots marking where his forces had struck. His reflection smiled back at him in the thick glass. After 3 years of war, victory was finally within reach. Supreme Commander, a voice called from behind him. The latest reports are here. Do Young turned to face Admiral Hansol, his most trusted officer. The Admiral's uniform was perfectly pressed, as always. He held a data tablet in his hands. "Tell me the good news, Admiral," Do Young said, walking to his large metal desk. "Our energy weapons have destroyed 70% of their military bases. Their aircraft cannot fly through our shield networks. Their missiles explode harmlessly against our defensive screens." Hansol's voice carried pride as he read the numbers. "Earth's armies are running out of places to hide." Do Young sat in his chair and pressed a button. A large hologram of Earth appeared above his desk, covered in red dots that showed their successful attacks. "Excellent. How many ships have we lost?" "Only 12 ships, Commander. Their weapons are primitive compared to ours. They still use physical ammunition and explosive devices." Hansol shook his head. "They never had a chance against our energy shields." As they spoke, Intelligence Officer Jai-1 rushed into the office. Her usual calm face showed worry. "Supreme Commander, Admiral, I have strange news." Do Young waved her forward. "Speak freely, officer." "Our sensors show unusual activity in their manufacturing centers. They have changed their production patterns." Jai-1 placed her own tablet on the desk, showing graphs and charts. "They have almost stopped making bullets and missiles. Instead, they are using their factories for something else. We cannot tell what they are making." Hansol laughed. "Perhaps they are finally building proper energy weapons. Too late for that now." But Do Young leaned forward, studying the data. Something felt wrong. In his 30 years of military service, he had learned to trust his instincts. "Show me where this is happening." Jai-1 touched her tablet. The hologram changed, showing bright blue spots in mountains and underground facilities. "Here, Commander. They have moved much of their manufacturing to hidden locations. They are using old facilities we thought were abandoned." "Should we bomb these locations?" Hansol asked, already reaching for his communication device. Do Young raised his hand, stopping the Admiral. "No. Watch them closely. I want to know what they are planning." He stood up and walked back to the window. "Humans are stubborn. They keep fighting even when they cannot win. But they are also clever." "Sir," Jai-1 said quietly, "there's one more thing. We intercepted some transmissions. They mentioned something called Project Blade." Hansol laughed again. "Blades? Like knives. Have they become so desperate?" Do Young didn't laugh. He remembered reading about Earth's history, about ancient warriors who fought with swords and spears. "Double the watch on these facilities. I want to know everything they make, everything they move, everyone who goes in or out." "Yes, Commander," Jai-1 said, bowing slightly before leaving the room. Hansol stayed behind. "Sir, surely you're not worried about primitive weapons." Do Young kept staring at Earth. The red spots of destruction were spreading, but those blue dots of mysterious activity bothered him. "Admiral, do you know why humans are the only species that still studies ancient combat methods?" "No, sir. Neither do I. And that worries me." Do Young touched the window, his finger tracing the outline of Earth. "Keep bombing their military bases, but watch those manufacturing centers. The humans are planning something, and I want to know what it is before they surprise us." As Hansol left, Do Young remained at the window. Victory was close, yes, but something told him the humans weren't finished yet. Not by a long way. Deep beneath Mount Sorek in Korea, Colonel James Cooper watched the video for the 20th time. The screen showed an alien soldier, its energy shield glowing as bullets bounced off harmlessly. Then something unexpected happened. A metal pipe, thrown by a desperate soldier, passed right through the shield, and knocked the alien down. Commander Lee Sun-ho paused the video. "Watch it again, Colonel. The shield doesn't stop the pipe. It's not moving fast enough to trigger their defense system." The underground command center was filled with military leaders from around the world. They had gathered here after discovering this weakness in alien technology. The room was dim, lit only by screens showing similar videos from different battles. "Their shields are designed to stop high-energy weapons," a scientist explained. She pointed to more test results on another screen. "Fast bullets, explosions, laser weapons, anything with high energy gets blocked. But slow-moving objects, those pass right through." Cooper stood up and walked to a large table in the center of the room. On it lay various weapons, swords, spears, and axes, all made with modern materials. "So we go back to basics. We fight them like our ancestors fought." Sun-ho picked up one of the swords. It looked like an ancient Korean blade, but its edge was impossibly thin and sharp. "These are made with new technology. The edge is just 1 molecule thick. It can cut through almost anything." "How many can we make?" Cooper asked. A manufacturing expert stepped forward. "We've converted many of our ammunition factories. They're now producing these weapons. The designs are simple. That's our advantage. We can make thousands every day." Sun-ho swung the sword carefully. "But our soldiers don't know how to use these weapons. We've spent years training them with guns, not swords." "That's why we're here," Cooper said, gesturing to the martial arts masters sitting quietly at the back of the room. These men and women had spent their lives preserving ancient fighting techniques. Now those skills might save humanity. "We have 3 months, Sun-ho said. 3 months before the aliens reach our main cities. Can we train enough soldiers in that time?" An old martial arts master stood up. His name was Master Kim, and he had taught sword fighting for 50 years. "We will teach them the basics, not to be masters, but to survive, to fight. Sometimes the simple ways are the best ways." Cooper nodded. "We've hidden our training centers in mountains and underground bunkers. The aliens think we're building weapons. They're right, but not the kind they expect." "What about their regular soldiers?" someone asked. "Even without shields, they're still dangerous." Sun-ho smiled. "Their soldiers rely too much on technology. They've forgotten how to fight hand-to-hand. When we get close, they won't know what to do." The room fell quiet as everyone thought about what they were planning. It seemed crazy, fighting space aliens with swords. But the videos didn't lie. The aliens' greatest strength, their advanced shields, was also their weakness. "Send the orders," Cooper said finally. "Every able soldier reports for training. Tell them." He picked up one of the new swords, testing its weight. "Tell them it's time to remember the old ways." As the leaders left to carry out their orders, Sun-ho and Cooper stood looking at the weapons on the table. Everything old was new again. Humanity's ancient knowledge, combined with modern science, might be their only hope. "Do you think this will work?" Sun-ho asked quietly. Cooper watched as soldiers began carrying boxes of newly made swords out of the room. "It has to work. We've tried everything else. Sometimes to move forward, you have to look back." Above them, hidden by mountains and clouds, alien ships continued their patrol, unaware that beneath their feet, a very old way of fighting was being reborn. Captain Kim Tae-young watched as 500 soldiers moved in perfect unison, their practice swords cutting through the air. The underground training facility echoed with the sound of their synchronized movements. 3 weeks had passed since training began, and already he could see improvement. Again, he called out, his voice firm but calm. "Remember, the shield doesn't activate unless the attack is fast. Control your speed until the last moment." The soldiers repeated their movement. Their weapons moved slowly at first, then snapped forward with sudden speed at the end. It was a technique Tae-young had developed after studying both ancient martial arts and the alien shields. Master Kim walked among the rows of soldiers, correcting stances and movements. "Better," he said to Tae-young. They're beginning to understand, not just the movements, but the wisdom behind them. Tae-young nodded. When he had first proposed combining ancient Korean sword techniques with modern combat training, many had doubted him. But now, watching these soldiers train, even the skeptics were becoming believers. A young soldier raised her hand. "Captain, what if they develop new shields? Ones that can stop slow weapons too?" "Good question," Tae-young said, walking to the front of the room. "The aliens have used energy shields for hundreds of years. They've forgotten about physical armor. They can't change their entire defense system quickly. We have time." The facility's main door opened, and Commander Lee Sun-ho entered with several officers. They carried tablets showing maps and battle plans. The soldiers continued their practice as Sun-ho approached Tae-young. "The aliens are getting suspicious," Sun-ho said quietly. "They've increased their patrols near our training centers. We need to move faster." Tae-young looked at his soldiers. They weren't ready yet, but they were closer than he had expected. "Show me the latest surveillance." Sun-ho handed him a tablet. On the screen, alien ships moved in new patterns, focusing on areas where humans had hidden their training facilities. "They know we're planning something. They just don't know what." "How long do we have?" "Maybe 2 weeks before they start serious bombing runs on these mountains." Sun-ho looked worried. "Are they ready?" Tae-young watched as his soldiers moved through another series of attacks. Their movements were becoming smoother, more natural. "Not all of them, but enough. We can start with small strikes, test our theory in real combat." "I'll tell Colonel Cooper," Sun-ho said. "He's preparing a strike team for the first attack." As Sun-ho left, Tae-young turned back to his soldiers. "Listen carefully," he called out. "Everything you learn here is based on knowledge passed down through generations. Our ancestors fought with these weapons not because they were primitive, but because they worked." He picked up his own practice sword. "The aliens think they're superior because their technology is newer, but they've forgotten something important. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. Now let's continue. Show me the third form." The soldiers moved again, their weapons cutting through the air with controlled grace. In other rooms throughout the facility, more groups trained with different weapons: spears, axes, and even warhammers. Each weapon was made with modern materials but followed ancient designs. Master Kim smiled as he watched. "Your idea to combine old and new, it was brilliant," he said to Tae-young. "These soldiers learn faster because the movements feel natural to their bodies. Humans have been fighting this way for thousands of years." Tae-young nodded. Above them, alien ships patrolled, their crews confident in their superior technology. Soon they would learn that progress wasn't always about moving forward. Sometimes, the path to victory led through the past. Lieutenant Na-young held her breath as she watched the alien patrol walk past her hiding spot. Her team of 20 soldiers lay perfectly still in the ruins of Seoul's shopping district. The aliens' energy shields glowed faintly in the dark, creating small circles of blue light. 3 months of constant bombing had changed Seoul. Broken buildings reached toward the sky like broken teeth. The streets were empty except for alien patrols. But tonight, that would change. Na-young touched the communication device in her ear. "All teams, report," she whispered. "Team 1, ready." The voice came from soldiers hidden in a destroyed department store. "Team 2, ready." Another group waited in an underground parking lot. "Team 3, ready." The last group was positioned behind the patrol. Na-young gripped her sword tightly. It looked like an ancient Korean blade, but its edge could cut through steel like paper. "Remember your training," she said quietly. "Slow approach, fast strike. Wait for my signal." The alien patrol stopped at a street corner. There were 10 of them, led by Field Commander Yoon Seok. Na-young had studied their patterns for weeks. They always stopped here to check their sensors. "Now," she whispered. Her soldiers moved silently from their hiding places. They had trained for this moment hundreds of times. Their feet made no sound on the broken concrete. The alien sensors were designed to detect fast movement and energy weapons, not slow-moving humans with metal swords. The first alien died without making a sound. A soldier named Min moved like flowing water, his sword passing through the alien's shield as if it wasn't there. The blade cut deeply, and the alien fell. That's when the others noticed. Field Commander Yoon Seok turned, raising his energy rifle. But he was too slow. Naehyung's sword was already moving, sliding through his shield, and striking true. Impossible. Yoon Seok shouted as he fell. How did you? The rest of Naehyung's team struck at the same moment. The aliens tried to fight back, but their weapons were made for long-range combat. Their shields, which had protected them from bullets and bombs, did nothing against slow-moving blades. In less than a minute, it was over. 10 alien soldiers lay dead, and not a single human was lost. Naehyung touched her communicator again. Command, this is Strike Team Alpha. First test is complete. The swords work. I repeat, the swords work. Back in the command center, Colonel Cooper and Commander Sun-ho watched through security cameras. They saw Naehyung's team quickly clean their weapons and disappear back into the ruins. Send the message to all resistance groups, Cooper said. Operation Blade is confirmed. Begin full deployment. Sun-ho was already sending the orders. The aliens won't know what hit them. Their sensors won't detect our teams until it's too late. In Seoul, Naehyung led her team through the dark streets. They had more targets to hit tonight. 3 months of planning and training had paid off. Now it was time to take their city back. As they moved, she thought about what they had just proved. The aliens' greatest strength, their advanced technology, had become their weakness. They had forgotten the simple truth that her ancestors had known. Sometimes the oldest weapons were the deadliest. Above them, alien ships continued their patrol, unaware that everything had just changed. The real war was about to begin. Commander Park Min-ji walked through the underground factory, watching as machines turned sheets of special metal into weapons. The facility ran day and night, producing thousands of swords, spears, and other close combat weapons. What had started as a desperate plan was now becoming a global revolution. Production is up 40%, her assistant reported, holding up a tablet with the latest numbers. Every major facility is now running at full capacity. We're arming resistance groups as fast as we can. Min-ji picked up one of the newly made swords, testing its perfect balance. How many teams are active now? 200 strike teams are operating worldwide, the assistant said. Reports are coming in from every continent. The aliens are losing patrols everywhere. In his command ship above Earth, Regional Commander Kang Hyun-woo stared at the latest casualty reports with growing concern. Another patrol had disappeared in Beijing, 3 more in Moscow, 5 in New York. Something was very wrong. Show me the pattern again, he ordered his staff. A large hologram appeared, showing all the recent alien losses. Red dots covered the map of Earth. Sir, an analyst said, we've noticed something strange. None of our soldiers are reporting combat before they die. Their shields are working perfectly, but they're still being killed. Hyun-woo frowned. That's impossible. Nothing can get through our shields except... He stopped, remembering an old report about humans practicing with primitive weapons. No, they wouldn't dare. Back underground, Min-ji received an urgent message. A resistance team in London had just captured an alien communication center. The team leader's excited voice came through her communicator. Commander, you won't believe this, the leader said. They're completely confused. They don't understand how we're killing their soldiers. Their commanders think their shield systems are malfunctioning. Min-ji smiled. They've relied on their technology for too long. They've forgotten that sometimes the simplest solution is the best solution. The next day, she visited a training center where new recruits were learning to use the weapons. The sound of practice fights filled the large room. Soldiers moved with growing confidence, their movements becoming more natural each day. We've learned something interesting, the head trainer told her. The aliens don't even carry backup weapons. They trust their shields completely. When we get close enough to use our swords, they have nothing to fight back with. Minji nodded. Their overconfidence is their weakness. Keep training the new teams. We need every fighter we can get. That evening, she met with other resistance leaders through secure video links. Their faces showed hope for the first time in months. The aliens are starting to retreat from some cities, one leader reported. They're pulling back to their ships, trying to figure out what's happening. Then we push harder, Minji said. We've found their weakness. Now we exploit it until they're forced to leave Earth completely. As she ended the meeting, Minji thought about how strange it was. Humanity's oldest weapons were now their best hope for survival. The aliens had expected them to fight with advanced technology. Instead, humans had reached back into their past and found a solution the aliens never saw coming. Above the Earth, more alien ships gathered as their commanders tried to understand what was happening. But they were looking in the wrong direction. They searched their sensors for new technology, for advanced weapons. They didn't realize that their defeat would come from something as simple as a sword in trained hands. The revolution wasn't just spreading, it was winning. Master Sergeant Choi Jin-ho stood at the edge of the Siberian forest, looking across the snow-covered field at the alien defense line. Their energy barriers glowed blue against the white landscape, creating what they thought was an impenetrable wall. Behind him, 5,000 soldiers waited silently, their modern swords and spears ready. Remember your training, Jin-ho said into his communicator. They expect us to attack with guns and missiles. They don't know about our weapons yet. This is our chance to break their strongest defensive position. The alien base protected their main landing zone in Siberia. 50 ships rested behind the energy barriers, and 3,000 alien soldiers guarded them. They had stopped every human attack for months, but they had never faced an attack like this. All units report ready, Jin-ho's second-in-command said. The soldiers had spread out along the tree line, hidden by the forest and the falling snow. They wore white winter gear that helped them blend in with their surroundings. Jin-ho raised his sword. Begin the operation. The first part of their plan was simple. Artillery units behind them fired old-fashioned smoke shells. The shells flew high and burst over the alien position, filling the air with thick smoke. The alien sensors couldn't see through it, but they didn't worry. Their shields would stop any attack. They were wrong. Forward, Jin-ho commanded. 5,000 soldiers moved as one, walking steadily through the smoke. They had practiced this approach hundreds of times. Slow, controlled steps. No rushing. No fear. The aliens didn't notice them until they were almost at the shields. An alarm sounded, but it was too late. The human soldiers passed through the energy barriers as if they weren't there, their weapons held low and steady. Jin-ho led the charge, his sword moving in the patterns he had practiced for months. The alien commander in front of him tried to raise his energy rifle, but Jin-ho's blade was faster. All around him, his soldiers engaged the enemy. The aliens tried to fight back, but their training hadn't prepared them for this. They had no defense against enemies who could ignore their shields. Their weapons were made for long-range combat, useless against opponents who were already too close. Push forward, Jin-ho shouted. Don't let them regroup. The battle moved through the alien base like a wave. Human soldiers worked in teams, protecting each other as they advanced. The aliens retreated in confusion, trying to understand how their perfect defenses had failed. In the command center, the alien base commander watched in horror as his forces fell. He sent an urgent message to the fleet. They're inside our shields. They're using primitive weapons. We need immediate evacuation. But help wouldn't arrive in time. Jin-ho's forces had already reached the grounded ships, their special weapons cutting through important equipment. Without their landing zone, the aliens would lose their main supply base in this part of the world. 2 hours after the battle began, it was over. The alien defense line, which had held for months against the most advanced human weapons, had fallen to soldiers with swords. Jin Ho stood in the captured command center, looking at the battlefield through the windows. "Send word to High Command," he said. "The Siberian front has fallen. The aliens are retreating. Operation Blade is a complete success." His soldiers began securing the base, treating wounded from both sides. They had lost good people today, but they had proved something important. Humanity's oldest weapons, combined with modern training and materials, could defeat any technology. The turning point of the war had arrived. Supreme Commander Do Young paced in his command room, surrounded by holographic displays showing battle reports from Earth. Red lights blinked everywhere, indicating lost positions and defeated forces. His perfect invasion was falling apart. "How?" he demanded, turning to his gathered officers. "How are they defeating our best technology with primitive weapons?" Admiral Hansall stepped forward, his uniform no longer perfectly pressed. Dark circles showed under his eyes. "Sir, we've analyzed their weapons. They're using advanced materials to make traditional blades. The edges are incredibly sharp, and our shields can't stop them." Intelligence Officer Jaiwan added her report. "Our soldiers are not trained for close combat. We've relied on energy shields for so long that we've forgotten how to fight without them." Do Young stopped pacing. "Then we adapt. Order all ships to begin producing physical armor. We'll protect our soldiers the old way if we must." But Captain Song He-jin, their head of manufacturing, shook his head. "Sir, we don't have the right equipment. Our factories make energy weapons and shield generators. We don't know how to mass-produce physical armor anymore. That knowledge was lost centuries ago." "Then find it," Do Young shouted, his calm facade breaking. "Search our historical records. Contact our homeworld. Do whatever you must, but find a way to stop these humans." In the command center's corner, a young alien officer worked at his station. He had been studying Earth's military history. "Sir," he said quietly, "I think I understand what happened. We thought we were more advanced than humans because our technology was newer, but they never stopped practicing old combat methods. They kept the knowledge alive." Do Young walked to the main window, watching Earth below. More reports were coming in. Human strike teams had captured 3 more major bases. Their sword-wielding soldiers moved like ghosts through alien defenses, untouchable and deadly. "Launch a final assault," he ordered. "Target their production facilities. If we can't stop their weapons, we'll destroy the places they make them." Captain Song led the attack personally. 500 ships descended toward Earth's surface, targeting the hidden factories that produced the new old weapons. But the humans were ready. Underground, Commander Park Min-ji watched the alien ships approach on her radar. "They're finally desperate enough to try a direct attack," she said to her staff. "Activate the new defense systems." Across Earth, hidden anti-aircraft guns emerged from camouflaged positions. They didn't fire energy bolts or missiles. Instead, they launched clouds of small metal balls, moving too slowly to trigger the alien shields, but fast enough to damage their ships' engines and weapons. Song's fleet fell into chaos as ships began losing power and control. "Pull back," he ordered. "We can't." His transmission cut off as his own ship lost power and began falling from the sky. Back in orbit, Do Young received the reports of the failed attack. His last desperate plan had been defeated by yet another example of humans combining old ideas with new technology. "Send the message to all forces," he said quietly. "Begin emergency evacuation procedures. We can't win this war. Not anymore." As alien ships began retreating from Earth's orbit, Do Young looked one last time at the planet that had defeated them. They had come with the most advanced technology in the galaxy, only to be beaten by humans wielding swords. The age of energy shields was over. Commander Ryu Sang-min floated in space, watching the alien fleet gather above Earth. 500 warships had formed a defensive circle, preparing to protect their withdrawal. His own vessel, a modified space shuttle, carried 30 soldiers equipped with magnetic boots and specially designed space combat suits. All teams report ready, his communications officer said. 20 other modified shuttles waited nearby, hidden from alien sensors by a new stealth system. Sang-min checked his sword one last time. The blade had been specially made for space combat, with a heated edge that could cut through ship hulls. "Begin the operation," he ordered. The shuttles moved silently through space, approaching the alien fleet from different directions. The alien sensors were focused on Earth, watching for missile launches or energy weapon attacks. They weren't looking for small, slow-moving vessels. "Remember your training," Sang-min said to his team. "The physics of space make our normal sword techniques difficult. Use short, controlled movements. Let your magnetic boots do the work." Their shuttle reached its target, a large alien battleship. Magnetic grapples shot out, attaching to the ship's hull with barely a sound. In space, no one could hear the gentle thud of 30 pairs of magnetic boots connecting to the alien vessel's surface. "Begin cutting," Sang-min ordered. His soldiers moved carefully across the hull, their heated swords slicing through the metal like butter. The aliens had never designed their ships to resist physical attacks. Why would they? No one had used such weapons in space for centuries. Inside the battleship, alarms began to sound. The aliens realized something was wrong, but by then it was too late. Sang-min's team had already cut through into the ship's corridors. "Internal gravity is active," Sang-min reported as his team entered the ship. "Move forward according to plan." The aliens tried to fight back, but their ship's narrow corridors worked against them. Their energy weapons were too powerful to use safely inside their own vessel, and their shields couldn't stop the humans' blades. Similar scenes played out across the fleet as other teams breached more ships. The aliens had nowhere to retreat. Their own technology had trapped them. On his command ship, Supreme Commander Du Young received desperate messages from his fleet. "Humans inside the ships. They're cutting through our hulls. They've reached the engine rooms." Du Young watched helplessly as ship after ship went dark, their power cut off by precise sword strikes to critical systems. The humans had adapted their ground tactics for space warfare. And once again, the aliens had no defense. Sang-min led his team to the battleship's bridge. The alien crew surrendered immediately, having seen what happened to those who resisted. "Send the message," he ordered. "Tell Du Young it's over." Hours later, Sang-min stood with other human commanders as Du Young formally surrendered. The alien leader looked tired but thoughtful. "You've taught us an important lesson," Du Young said. "Technology alone does not guarantee victory. We forgot this truth, but you reminded us." The war was over. Humanity had won using weapons from their past combined with modern knowledge. As Sang-min watched the remaining alien ships prepare to leave Earth's orbit, he thought about the strange path that had led them here. "Sometimes," he said to his team, "the future belongs to those who remember their past."